YouTubers and malefactors? Back here at Stop Logic Motorsports, and we're looking at old Filthy Luca here. Yes, I named my bike after the bit villain character in Robin Hood Men in Tights. Funny thing, he likes to take bolts with his hands and pitch them all over the trail, but I digress. Today's video is going to be something that kind of breaks with the general consensus and opinion of other YouTubers on the internet. And I'm going to have to say I'm sorry, Morgan. Huge fan of the channel. Got my KDX 200 sticker on this bike from the bike that was, I guess, not meant to be. And I know that he's covered this electric starter quite a bit more than most folks have, with mixed results, I guess somewhat negative results. And a few others have had some varying opinions on the Panthera electric starter. But we're going to dive into what it's been like to have this starter for, I guess, a better part of a year and a half. Nearly 2 years now. The pros, the cons, what I've dealt with, and it's actually an actual long-term review of the Panthera E-Start for the YZ250. So, goodness, I think I'm going to break with everyone else here. In the year and a half that I've had the starter, and also my buddy Bradley had the bike for a bit, there's been zero problems with the starter other than one. No matter what you do to the bottom drain plug, we've used copper crush washers and everything. I'm going to try paper washers next. There's always a little bit of leaking coming from the drain plug. Never been able to completely eliminate that. And in 100+ hours of having this on here and thousands of starts, that's really the only problem. I know, okay, well, now that drama's been addressed, I mean, everything else about the starter's been great. The only other downside I had is I didn't follow the instructions when I installed it, and the first time I rode it, I didn't torque these bolts to the 90 inch-pounds like they said in the instructions. I just, they're hand tight. I mean, it's like a case bolt, whatever. And my first ride, I had drained the oil by taking the case off the exciting way, by leaving most of the bolts on the trail, and the case was coming off. That was a self-inflicted wound, not an issue with the Panthera E-Start. And out of all the items that I've had on this bike since I've got this E-Start, because I got a brand new crank and a brand new piston right before putting this E-Start on, in the time that I've had this E-Start with zero problems, we've gone through 3 water pumps, and goodness, I really hate saying this because I'm a huge Smart Carb fan. I've had more problems with my Smart Carb than I've had with the Panthera E-Start. I have a random flooding issue. I think I need to just send it in for some service. But this unit's been absolutely great in almost every conceivable way. So what we're going to do is, now that we're at around 100 hours, I'm going to take the shifter lever off, and we're going to peel this unit apart and see what kind of wear is incurred on the gears and everything else. And funny enough, in the time that this E-Start's been on this bike, I've gone through an electric starter on my KTM 2019 KTM 250 XC. So, I don't know what to say. I mean, a lot of people have had difficulties with this. I've had the exact opposite experience. So, we're going to dig into this a little bit deeper, and we're going to kind of see what it looks like after 100 hours. No one else has really put one of these on here and reviewed it this long. So, look forward to that journey with you guys here in just a little bit. Kind of just slowly plodding around, just checking the general health of this thing after, I guess it's 100 hours or so. So I've had that persistent leak that I mentioned earlier in the video. I'm trying a paper washer, so copper washers haven't worked. Tightening the bejesus out of it really hasn't worked, and I haven't found the secret sauce for this thing yet. But what I'm going to do is we're going to pull the cover off, kind of flip it up, and we're going to see what these gears and everything look like after about 100 or so hours. Because trust me, it's for what I paid, and I'm gonna show a picture of the receipt of what I paid, so I'm definitely not, if anyone out there's gonna go, oh my goodness, he's saying nice things about this thing, he's a shill. This was all my own money. And no, I'm not usually a victim of confirmation bias. I've definitely made purchases I regret. This Panthera is not one of them. But you know, I guess early on into the development there was a few bugs for them to work out, and that's kind of normal of anything. Anyone's, you know, done the TPI stuff with the KTM, you know, you haven't had a entirely dissimilar experience, or the electric start stuff on the older gases or radios, or even older KTMs till they switched to oil bath systems. So I mean, let's be a little bit realistic here. I mean, the fact that they've managed to make a homebrew kit is pretty impressive. And you know, as I said, I've had less problems with this than I've had with that. And I'm so sorry, Smart Carb, but you know, I gotta be honest. I'm not gonna, I'm not going to gild the lily here. It doesn't do any of us any good. So I know I keep on saying, oh, I've had more problems with it. I've had the check ball in there stick. Recently I had that happen. The bike was acting like it was, well, basically it was flash flooding the engine with gas. I mean, like, terribly. So I kept on having to turn my petcock off and run the carb and the bike empty on gas just to make it back to camp. What's the other problem I've had with the Smart Carb? That's really just a persistent nagging issue I've had, is that check valve giving me trouble. It is what it is, though. I'm not mad about it. Things happen. I mean, I'm sure I'm probably just as much to blame for not having taken the carb apart in the near 2 years I've owned it and done a rebuild on it. So I mean, you know, I'm not the type of person who labors under the belief that if I point my finger, I don't have 2 or 3 pointing back at me. I like to temper my proclamation, so to speak, or my feedback with a healthy amount of self-reflection. Which, honestly, if you've gotten far in life, that's a good habit to maintain. Something doesn't go your way, well, it's rarely everybody else's fault. So this will be the second time I've taken this thing apart. The first being the first oil change. That was purely by accident. Now, what do we look like in here? Now, it looks like we're a little stuck on the ooh, goodness. That's interesting. A little stuck on the case goo. So this is our bearing that fit into the case here. That came loose. But it doesn't look like we have excessive metal or really any sort of odd wear. I might need to put a little more gasket sealer on this part. But, okay, so In 100 hours, our little bearing here came a little loose. Let's get an up-close look of what the rest of that creamy electric start nougat looks like. Yeah, I don't have really any metal shavings. Teeth all appear to be in spec. Yeah, one-way gear, still one-waying. We have a little bit of metal particulate in here. That's to be expected of gears meshing together, but I'd say for 100 hours, 100-ish hours, that's actually pretty good. I'm gonna clean myself up and start getting this back together. Whew. And I have made a mess of myself. Alrighty. Well, let's get this bearing back in there. I really am lacking something that's that's about as big. I usually don't like to pound a bearing unless I have something, a tool that really addresses that. But it looks like, you know, I don't really have a lot of bearings I drive that are that large. So we're gonna redneck it a little bit. And people are probably like, why aren't you just driving it, you know, just by tapping the sides of it? Well, I don't want it to go in cockeyed, because if it does, oh Lord knows I'm never going to get it out. And on top of that, won't work quite right. Alright. And it looks like I got it to bottom out. Okay, so we've encountered two things. A, it leaks a little bit. And B, this little bearing in there decided it wanted to free itself. And still, I'm not that flummoxed by that. Yeah, it doesn't seem like I damaged it. A gentle hand, you know? So anywho, I'm just going to zip these back up a little bit because I'm curious if it'll leak. Here's Stop Logic Motorsports, and we're wrapping up this Panthera video. So full disclosure, I've had this bike taken apart for about 2 weeks because I've been doing the hitless on it, and I put a Boyson super cooler on this bad boy. Plus I had to replace some other stuff, and apparently the person who did my top and bottom end rebuild left parts off of the linkage of my power valve, so I had to wait for parts to arrive for that. So the bike is essentially back together. We don't have the Kickstarter on here, because this is the kind of final moment for the for the Panthera E-Start. I showed you guys a little bit earlier in the video about the race bearing that fell out. That's been driven back in. Everything's been changed. I got rid of all the leaks, and we are right now firing up a freshly cleaned smart carb, and we'll see if this thing fires up. Idle's a little low, but Fires right up like a champ. I also recently cleaned the power valve, so we're getting a little bit of blow-by on that bad boy. Well, it seems like my new pump's working. I'm gonna run it a little longer just to make sure I'm working all the air out of the system. Looks like we're still dropping down a smidge. But yeah, like a champ. This is 2 weeks of this bike just being taken apart in my back porch. So I can't wait to try the hitless out. Don't get me wrong, I'm super excited about that. I've used the super cooler a ton of times, so there's nothing incredible there, but yeah, let's give it another bip. So yeah, a year and a half of ownership, works like a champ. Oh goodness, I really am excited to try the hitless and everything else on this. So yeah, I'm gonna clean up my area over here, and we'll do some riding footage. I'll be definitely using the Panthera quite a bit. Smart Carb seems to have taken fairly well to its cleaning. I'm going to run the gas out and finish putting this bad boy back together, but I tell you what, I'm excited to see how far we've taken this and how it's going to stack up against the KTM 250 XC. So I still got a couple of other things to do, like clean the air filter and a few other things, but I'm pretty stoked. I'm sorry guys, I'm super stoked. Well, at any rate, if you like the content, like and subscribe. If you don't, feel free to criticize me harshly. I also take payment in attaboys, and I'll see you guys out in the woods this weekend. Have a good one.